Have you ever replayed a memory, a really, really bad one, and tried to find the exact frame where it all went wrong? That's me, every night for the past 3 months. I'm sifting through the wreckage of my relationship with my sister, Penelope, and it's not a clean break. It's shrapnel. I know I'm the one who detonated the bomb, but I swear to God, I can't make sense of why I did it. It's this hollow, aching confusion, this constant loop of how did we get here, playing in my head. Penelope is, well, she's Penelope, the North Star of our family. She didn't just walk through life. She blazed a trail. Summa cum laude from a university most people only dream of getting a rejection letter from. A senior data analyst role at a top 3 tech giant in Seattle before she hit 25. She's the kind of person who makes perfection look not just easy, but casual, like it's something she just decided to do one Tuesday. For my entire life, she wasn't just my older sister. She was my designated pathfinder. She'd navigate the treacherous woods of adolescence and academia and then send back a laminated map, complete with color-coded routes, scenic overlooks, and little skull and crossbones markers for potential pitfalls. My parents' favorite mantra was, "Just do what Penny did, Jade." It worked out pretty well for her, didn't it? So, when my college application season rolled around, her involvement was a given. It wasn't a consultation. It was a deployment. She flew home for a weekend and set up a full-blown corporate-style presentation on our dining room table. I'm not exaggerating. There was a PowerPoint deck titled Project Jade's Future. She had slides with salary projections, 5-year market growth charts for the tech industry, and a Venn diagram showing the overlap between my skills and the core requirements for a data science major. And here's the absolute worst part, the part that makes this all so much more pathetic. She was 100% right. Every logical cell in my brain was firing in agreement. I loved math. I got a thrill from finding patterns in chaos, and the career she outlined was genuinely, deeply appealing to me. But as I sat there, watching her click through slides that define the next 40 years of my life, something curdled in my stomach. I wasn't seeing a loving sister trying to help. I was seeing a queen planning the arranged marriage of a princess she found slightly incompetent. All I heard wasn't, "I believe in you," but "let me fix you. Let me make you a viable, successful person just like me." It wasn't a suggestion. It was a blueprint for my assimilation. And I suddenly knew, with a certainty that terrified me, that I would rather burn the whole kingdom down than follow it. So I started a war. It wasn't a loud, declared war, but a quiet, simmering insurgency fought across the neutral territory of our family dining table. My weapon of choice, my declaration of independence, was art history. I'd never willingly set foot in a museum unless it was a school trip, but the name itself felt like a shield. It was the most perfect, most poetic antithesis to data science I could conjure. It was subjective beauty versus objective truth. It was passion versus profit. It was everything Penelope's meticulously structured world was not. I waited for the perfect moment. A Sunday dinner, the only time we were all captive. I took a deep breath and announced, "I've decided. I'm going to major in art history. I want to focus on the Italian Renaissance." You could have heard a pin drop. My dad, who was halfway through raising a forkful of mashed potatoes to his mouth, just froze. My mom's bright, hostess smile faltered, twitching at the corners. And Penelope, she didn't get angry. She got quiet. She carefully placed her knife and fork on her plate, parallel to each other, and a little tight line formed around her mouth. That was her processing an anomaly in the data look. "Art history," she repeated, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. "That's a choice. What's the 5-year career plan with that, Jade?" "Museum curator." The annual job openings for that are in the low hundreds, for the entire country. It's statistically insignificant. And so it began. Every conversation became a battlefield. She would come armed with overwhelming logic, statistics, articles from Forbes, links to TED Talks on the future of AI. She was always calm, infuriatingly rational. "Jade, I'm just asking you to be realistic. This isn't a hobby, it's your future. You can minor in art history. You can study abroad in Florence. But your major is your foundation for financial independence." My defense was pure, unadulterated emotion, wrapped in the language of teenage rebellion. I weaponized the concept of passion. It's not about the money for me, Penny. I don't want to be a corporate drone. I want to feel something about my work. I want to be inspired. I don't want to just stare at spreadsheets my whole life like you do. Each word was a carefully chosen jab, designed to paint her as a soulless automaton and me as a romantic visionary. I saw the flash of hurt in her eyes every time, and a dark, ugly part of me felt a surge of victory. Family dinners became exercises in tension management. My parents would try to steer the conversation to safer waters, but the undertow was too strong. This was between me and her. In my mind, I was fighting for my very soul. She saw a foolish girl making a catastrophic financial decision. I saw an oppressive regime trying to crush a revolution. Every piece of her sound advice felt like another bar on the cage she was building around me. It wasn't about a major anymore. It was about winning. It was about the moment I could finally look her in the eye and say, "See, I did it my way and I'm fine." I was determined to win that moment, no matter how illogical, how self-destructive the path to get there was. Here's the part I'm most ashamed of, the part that makes my stomach twist even now. For all my grandstanding about artistic integrity and following my soul, I was a complete and utter coward. Late one night, staring at the Common App portal with its endless little boxes, a cold wave of terror washed over me. What if Penelope was right? What if I ended up with a useless degree, a mountain of debt, and a job as a barista who could tell you a lot about Caravaggio's use of chiaroscuro? So I did it. In a moment of pure, undiluted weakness, I clicked the drop-down menu for a second-choice major. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, and then I typed it in: data science. I told myself it was just a safety net, a pragmatic backup plan that didn't mean anything. It was like packing a parachute for a walk in the park. You don't expect to need it, but it would be stupid not to have it, right? That's the lie I whispered to myself in the blue glow of the monitor. I hit submit on my applications and felt a disgusting mix of relief and self-loathing. I had betrayed my own revolution before the first shot was even fired. Then, in early March, the emails started rolling in. The first one I opened was from my top-choice university. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I clicked it, saw the digital confetti explode across the screen, and the word "congratulations." My breath caught in my throat. This was it. This was the validation I needed. And then I read the next line. "We are pleased to offer you admission to the College of Engineering for the study of data science." The joy evaporated instantly, replaced by a cold, sickening dread. It wasn't a victory, it was a verdict. It was the universe siding with Penelope. This acceptance didn't feel like my achievement. It felt like hers. It was proof that her path was the correct one, and my entire rebellion was nothing more than a childish tantrum. Without a second thought, my hand shot to the mouse. I clicked archive. The email vanished from my inbox, and just like that, the lie became my reality. A few weeks later, the letter I'd actually been waiting for arrived. Same university, same letterhead, but this time, the words were different. I had been accepted into the College of Arts and Sciences for art history. The relief that washed over me was so profound, it almost brought me to my knees. This was my trophy. This was my proof of concept. This was the tangible evidence that I could win the war on my own terms. I planned the reveal like a military operation. I waited for another Sunday dinner, the stage for all our previous battles. I let the meal progress, enduring the usual small talk, feeling the acceptance letter in my pocket like a concealed weapon. Then, during a lull in the conversation, I casually pulled it out and placed it on the table. "So, I heard back from my first choice," I announced, my voice brimming with a carefully rehearsed nonchalance. My parents were ecstatic. There were hugs, congratulations, my mom got a little teary-eyed. It was everything I had pictured, but my eyes were locked on Penelope. Across the table, she was quiet. She picked up the letter, her expression unreadable as she scanned the words. I was bracing for an "I told you so" about it not being the engineering school or another lecture on job prospects. Instead, she just looked tired, defeated. She put the letter down and gave me a small, sad smile. "Well, Jade, congratulations. If that's what you really want, then I'm happy for you." She tried one last time, later that evening, when we were clearing the dishes. Her voice was softer now, stripped of all its argumentative force. "Are you sure about this, Jade? It's not too late to change your mind. You're so good at math. You have such a logical mind. I just don't want to see you struggle." But I wasn't listening to her words. I was basking in the glow of my victory. I had won. I had faced down her logic, her pressure, her perfectly constructed arguments, and I had come out on top. I looked at my sister, at the genuine concern etched on her face, and I saw only the final, desperate plea of a losing general. "It's my life, Penny," I said, my voice colder than I intended. "I've made my choice." She just nodded slowly and turned back to the sink. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, like the air after a storm, thick with unspoken things. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment the war ended and the real damage began. In the weeks leading up to my departure for college, a strange and unsettling truce settled over our house. Penelope dropped the subject of my major entirely. It was like a word that had been erased from our shared vocabulary. She started helping me shop for dorm supplies, offering practical advice about laundry and textbooks. I mistook her quiet compliance for acceptance, for my final, unconditional victory. I was so arrogant, so blinded by my own narrative of righteous rebellion, that I couldn't see it for what it really was. The calm before the complete and total collapse. The breaking point came in the most mundane way possible. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Penelope had insisted on buying me a new laptop as a graduation/going-away present. It was an incredibly generous offer, and for a moment, the old warmth I felt for her, the gratitude, flickered back to life. "I want to make sure you get the right one," she said, pulling up a tech website on her own laptop. We were sitting side by side on the living room couch. "Art history. I imagine you'll need something with a really high-res screen for looking at digital archives, right? And maybe a lot of storage for image files." I just nodded, my mouth suddenly dry. "Yeah, something like that." I started making things up, spewing nonsense about needing a dedicated graphics card for rendering 3D models of sculptures. I was digging myself deeper and deeper into the lie, the words feeling like mud in my mouth. She just kept nodding, typing away. Then she paused. "You know what, this is silly. Let me just check your university's official recommendation. What's your student ID and password again? I'll just log into your portal and see what the arts department suggests." Panic, cold and sharp, shot through me. "Oh no, you don't have to do that. I can look it up later." "It'll take 2 seconds, Jade. Don't be difficult." Before I could protest further, she'd taken my phone, which I'd foolishly left on the cushion between us. She knew my password. It had been her birthday for years. My blood ran cold as I watched her thumbs move across the screen. I saw her navigate to the university website, log in, and land on the student dashboard. And there it was, spelled out in the university's official, unforgiving font right under my student photo. Name, Jade Miller. College, College of Engineering. Declared major, data science. The silence was absolute. It was a vacuum that sucked all the air out of the room. She didn't gasp. She didn't yell. She just slowly, deliberately placed my phone back on the couch and turned to look at me. Her face was a mask of utter devastation. It wasn't anger. It was something far, far worse. It was the look of someone who had invested everything they had in a stock, only to watch it plummet to zero in real time. "Why?" she whispered, and the sound was so fragile it barely carried across the few inches between us. "What was all this for, Jade? What did you win? You just wanted to prove me wrong, didn't you? And you were willing to lie to my face for months just to do it." That was it. That was the moment the ground gave way. In the aftermath of that conversation, Penelope didn't explode. She just withdrew. She retracted every ounce of emotional energy she had ever invested in me. She didn't tell our parents about the lie. I think, on some level, she was too humiliated to admit that her own sister had played her for a fool for so long. She chose a quieter, more devastating punishment. She weaponized her disappointment. The arguments stopped. The lectures stopped. Everything stopped. Our conversations became hollow shells, limited to the barest of necessities. "Can you pass the salt?" Mom's calling for dinner. "I'm heading out." There was no warmth, no anger, just a chilling, formal politeness, the kind you use with a stranger you're stuck in an elevator with. It was like she had surgically removed me from her emotional life, leaving only a scar of polite obligation. The laptop she was going to buy me became a silent, looming monument to my deceit. She had already ordered it, a top-of-the-line machine with a powerful processor and enough RAM to run the complex data models she used at her own job. It arrived in a large brown box a few days after the big reveal. She never even opened it. She just carried it up to her room and left it in the corner. I'd see it every time I walked past her open door. This expensive, abandoned gift, a constant, physical reminder of the trust I had incinerated. It was a testament to the future she had believed in for me, a future I had secretly chosen while publicly spitting on her guidance. I ended up going to college and majoring in data science. And the sickest joke of all, I was good at it. I was really, really good at it. I found a deep, satisfying thrill in finding stories hidden in massive datasets. My professors praised my work. I got an internship after my first year. I was succeeding objectively on the very path she had laid out for me. But every small victory felt hollow. Every time I got a good grade on a project or solved a difficult problem, my first instinct was to pick up the phone and call her. And then I'd remember. I'd send her a text, and hours later, I get a single sterile reply. Good to hear. The final act of this tragedy always plays out on the same stage. A family holiday. This year, it was Thanksgiving. The house was filled with the familiar, comforting chaos of relatives. The smell of turkey, the sound of my uncles yelling at a football game on TV, the clatter of silverware. It should have felt like coming home. Instead, it felt like being a ghost at my own family gathering. I was sitting on an armchair in the corner of the living room, nursing a glass of sparkling cider, trying to look like I belonged there. Penelope was holding court by the fireplace, surrounded by our cousins. She was animated, funny, brilliant. She was telling a story about some ridiculous dataset she'd had to clean at work, something about predicting pet food sales based on social media trends. It was a nerdy, specific story, the kind of thing she and I would have geeked out about for hours. The kind of thing I was now learning about in my advanced statistics class. I saw a small opening in the conversation and I took it, a desperate attempt to bridge the icy chasm between us. "That's funny," I said, my voice sounding unnaturally loud. We were just talking about sentiment analysis in my machine learning class. Penelope's smile didn't falter, but it didn't reach her eyes. She gave me a brief, polite nod, the kind you'd give a stranger who made a comment in a checkout line. "Oh, interesting," she said, and then immediately turned to our cousin. Anyway, so the model kept flagging the word chonky. And just like that, I was invisible again. She didn't ignore me in a way anyone else would notice. It was a master class in social exclusion. She included me in the group with her eyes, but walled me off with her words. Later, when I tried to help her in the kitchen, she handed me a stack of plates and said, "Could you take these to the dining room?" With the same detached courtesy she'd use with a caterer. I sat at that dinner table, surrounded by my family, and I had never felt more alone. I had won. I had gotten my way. I was studying what she wanted me to study in the secret, deceitful way I had engineered. I had proven absolutely nothing. And in doing so, I had lost the one person who, for my entire life, had been my fiercest advocate, my guide, my sister. I had won the battle, and in doing so, I had completely and utterly lost the world.